Good morning and welcome everyone to FMT's webinar on Microsoft Office 365. Again, this is Sean McMahon. I'm a Senior Account Executive here at FMT. With me today I have Zach Saltzman. He's a Senior Consultant with the Solution and Support Services Group. And James Anderson. He's the Senior Manager of the Solutions and Support Services Group. Today we are going to talk a lot about Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft's cloud-based email solution. Without further ado, I'd like to kind of turn it over to Zach Saltzman and James Anderson, who will be walking you through the Office 365 webinar.
Thank you, Sean. As Sean mentioned, I'm James Anderson. I'm with the Solutions and Support Services Group, and I just wanted to go over real quick before Zach dives into the topic of the day here, the brief high-level benefits of Office 365. I'm sure a lot of you have heard these things before, but it's important to touch base on as we go through this series. The Office 365 product really gives you a lot of functions and tools to help you stay organized. It's leveraging the unified communications, calendaring, scheduling assistant, and integration between their products that you've heard about, from SharePoint to Exchange to the Office family of products to Lync. So we're going to start demonstrating those for you here. The next big thing here is it gives you the ability to work from anywhere. It utilizes a variety of mechanisms here for online storage, and then integrates the files between devices and locations and individuals in your organization. Really helps you to get a seamless experience across all those devices and across the organization there for the users. Gives you the ability to stay current with the updates with the products, because Microsoft is actually upgrading them for you in the background. You don't have to worry about some of those upgrade fees or skipping different versions because of the cost associated with them. They're lowering the price point per user, giving you the ability to get more users involved and synced up with that data. And then the last part is the reliability. Because they've got a full HA environment there, the cost comes down for you, but the reliability goes up. You don't have to worry as much about a single server failing in your environment or getting fault tolerance. So there's all those benefits that are there. Specifically for this series, what we're going to be going over is we're breaking it up into 4 parts on the Office suite. We're going to cover it from the beginning to the end, from Outlook, the Office Web Apps and Exchange, which we're covering today, to the next session, which is going to be on SharePoint and OneDrive, the recently renamed SkyDrive. The third one is going to be on Lync and the collaboration features, and then the fourth one on the administration, the licensing, and answering a bunch of questions that we typically get during either new implementations or migrations to Office 365 about the services and the features and how to really leverage those in your environment. So without going too much further into everything that Zach is going over, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Zach to get started with Outlook, the Office Web Apps, and Exchange.
Great, James. Thank you very much. As James mentioned, this is Zach Saltzman. I'm a Senior Consultant in the Solutions and Support Services Group. And before we jump into the demo, there's just one more slide that I'd like to show everyone. And this slide sort of just gives you a very high-level overview of the different technologies and how they interact with each other. So the first piece that everyone's very familiar with is email, calendaring, and contacts. So these would all be features of Outlook, and I would guess that most of us use these on a daily basis. The second piece is SharePoint, and keep in mind that there are a lot of different Office 365 plans, but almost all of them will include everything I'm about to talk about. The second piece, SharePoint, is what allows you to store your files up in the cloud and really gives you the leverage to collaborate on those files with your colleagues. You also get to use the Office Web Apps, which is a great new killer feature, and we'll talk about those and demo those in a little bit. And then, obviously, you have to talk about your customers and clients and your coworkers. The whole point of email and collaboration is to work with these people, increase your sales, increase your productivity. So customers, clients, and coworkers obviously are an integral piece of the solution. James mentioned briefly SkyDrive Pro, which has been renamed to OneDrive. This is the area online where you can store your personal files. So you no longer have to save all your files on your local hard drive where they may not be backed up. where they may be vulnerable to crashes and things like that. So you've got them online, backed up. Everyone can access them. You can share them with people you wish, or you can keep them private. I also just want to mention, if anyone has questions during the webinar, there is a questions control panel there on your GoToWebinar screen on your little dashboard, and feel free to answer questions. We'll have James monitoring that in the background, and he can answer any questions you have. And we're also going to have a QA after the demo, where we will answer any other questions that you have once you've seen how everything works. So the last piece of this is Lync. We're not going to talk too much about Lync in this series today, but we will be going over that in one of the upcoming series. But what Lync does is it gives you an instant messaging feature so that you can easily talk to your coworkers and colleagues, and you can actually host virtual meetings just like you could with a GoToMeeting, any WebEx, any of those kinds of things. You can replace all those products with Lync, which is included in your pricing on your Office 365 plan. So it's really got everything. It covers a very broad spectrum, and it actually will end up probably saving you money. So we're going to go ahead and start to actually talk about Office 365 and jump into the some of the demos. The first thing I want to talk about is Office 2013 and the web apps. So when I talk about Office 2013, this is the familiar Office suite that most of us use on a daily basis: Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc. The 2013 version is the newest Office version that Microsoft has released. Some of you may be using it, but my guess is that most people are still using older versions, maybe Office 2010, Office 2007, hopefully not Office 2003, but we still see that out there on a fairly regular basis as well. So one of the great features of the new Office 2013 software is that everything is very streamlined. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at just some of the interfaces for those of you that haven't actually seen what the Office 2013 applications look like. And we'll go ahead and start with Outlook, which is probably the most, has changed the most from previous versions. When people see Outlook 2013 for the first time, they say, where are all the colors? And it looks kind of flat. And both of those are accurate statements. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but after you've used it for a while, you start to really like it. Content is made readily available. Things aren't very distracting. And that kind of is carried out through all of the other 2013 applications. So if we look at Word, for example, it doesn't look a whole lot different than Office 2010, Word 2010. But again, it's using the same idea. Everything's a little bit flatter. You don't have as many visual bells and whistles. They're kind of trying to focus you on just getting your work done, getting you the buttons and toolbars you need without a lot of other fancy stuff going on in the background. Same thing kind of goes for Excel. Hasn't changed a whole lot. You will notice that the ribbon, which is all of your toolbars and buttons here, can be collapsed and hidden, or it can be pinned so that it always stays up there. This is a really nice feature if you're working on a tablet or a smaller screen. You can collapse that ribbon, and it'll give you more screen real estate to actually work on your spreadsheet. Finally, PowerPoint. Pretty much the same as well as PowerPoint 2010, but again, same kind of features, so you can just get your work done, not a lot of distraction. One of the other things they've changed as well is what I call the backstage area. This is when you click on the File button. So they've gone ahead and broken all of these options into separate pages or tabs and simplified them, so there's a lot less clutter. So for example, if we go to Word, let's say you typed up your document, you want to save it or print it, all of these buttons along the left are these different tabs, or they've split up all your options. So no longer do you have a giant file menu with a bunch of different options you have to sort through. It's very streamlined. It's very simple. They give you these big buttons to save your file, many different locations. Printing, it's a much cleaner look in general. So that's sort of the overarching difference from Office 2010 to 2013. Is that everything is streamlined. I just quickly want to talk about the fact that there are different Office 365 plans, different features, different costs, so you do have a lot of flexibility. one of the great things with some of the plans is that you actually get the permissions and rights to download and run Office 2013. So for those of you who aren't on Office 2013 at the moment, who don't have that installed locally but would want that to leverage some of these features of Office 365, you can actually purchase an Office 365 plan that gives you the rights to that software on a month-to-month subscription basis. So, if any of you have seen the cost of Office 2013, if you buy it, straight out, it's fairly expensive. And so the Office 365 plans kind of allow you just to pay a much lower price on a month-to-month basis or an annual, basis to get that software. And not only that, but if you have it licensed through Office 365, you can actually install this Office 2013 software on up to 5 of your own devices. So if you have a desktop computer and a laptop computer at work, you can install Office 2013 on both of those machines. And if you have a computer at home, maybe a personal computer, you absolutely can install it there too. So it's really nice. They give you a lot of flexibility. They want you to use the software and leverage all the features.
And Zach, can they install this on an iPad?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean. So when we start to talk about the web apps, I'll jump into that a little bit more. The web apps are available on any mobile device, any mobile browser. Currently, there is not actual Office software, an iPad app for Office software, but there's been some rumblings within the past week that Microsoft has been developing it. We know that, but that they're actually pushing to release it much sooner than we thought. There's still no actual date, but I would say, within the next 6 months, we're probably going to see the full Office suite as an iPad app to install. With that being said, there actually is a mobile Office app for the iPhone and I believe Android, where you can view and you can do some simple editing to documents. But at least you can view all your documents. They come through with all the same formatting and colors and anything else that you would have used on your computer when you design those documents. So we've just talked about Office 2013. These are the applications that you guys use every day that you would install on your computer: Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc. So on the other hand, there's the web apps. And most people aren't familiar with these. And so one kind of similar program out there would be Google Docs. So if any of you have ever seen Google Docs, you know that you can create Word documents, spreadsheets, presentations, etc. online in your browser. Well, that's exactly what web apps are. They're versions of Word, Outlook, Excel, and PowerPoint that you just need a browser to access. There's no software to install. You go to a website, you launch the application, and you really have all of the same functionality that you do in the Rich app that we've just talked about, the version that you would install locally that everyone's familiar with. You're able to do the same thing. You can create new documents. You have your whole ribbon with all your toolbar buttons, etc. You can view, edit, create. You really have all the power of the Office software on the web, and you don't have to install anything. So this is great for most users, except for maybe high-end power users that are using advanced functionality of Excel or something similar. But this is great for IT people. It's great for travelers. They can go to a hotel. They might not have their work computer. They can just go to a website, open up their document, and boom, they're productive and doing work. So that's really great, and it kind of touches on what James was mentioning, work from anywhere. That's a big piece of Office 365, whether it be your mobile device, phone, tablet, laptop, kiosk computer in a hotel or a conference room or something like that. You can get your work done from wherever you need to. And we'll take a look at the web apps a little bit later in the demo, and you'll see that the interface is very similar. It's still familiar. It's not like you have to learn a whole new interface and piece of software in order to use the web apps. It's very, very similar. So we're going to jump in talking about Outlook and Exchange a little bit now. And Outlook is obviously the email program that you would use on your local machine to read your email, keep your calendar, contacts, appointments, meetings, and even tasks. So I just want to highlight a few of the features of Exchange, which is the back-end server piece that supports all of this great functionality. And with Office 365, you really do get some great features. So first of all, with any of the Office 365 plans and your hosted email, which you'll get from them, you get the latest defenses against email-based malware, viruses, and spam. So out of the box, this is all set up. All of your email is going to get scanned for any malware or viruses. They'll automatically get stripped out of the email before they get delivered to your computer, as well as spam filtering. So the spam filtering is great. It doesn't really need to be tweaked. It can be tweaked and customized, but out of the box, it works great, and it blocks 99.9% of spam. So, running, you hit the ground running. You don't have to worry about any kind of security issues like that, surrounding your email. There's also some great data loss prevention features. So if you work in a larger organization, and the executives or the IT people may be worried about, well, how do we make sure that credit card numbers, social security numbers, et cetera, don't leave the organization via email? A lot of that functionality is built into Exchange. It will stop people from sending emails outside of the company that contain that sensitive data automatically. And again, obviously, that's fully customizable. Mobile device support, which we've kind of talked about, whether you have an iPhone, Android, Windows Phone, Android tablet, iPad, or anything else, you get full support. You can connect all of the functions of Office 365 to those devices. So you can keep on top of your email. You can schedule appointments. You can even join these link meetings that I talked about earlier straight from your phone. You can really do it all, as well as accessing all your online documents, etc. You also get pretty vast storage quotas for your inbox. So, some people are constantly running up against like a 2 GB limit maybe that IT has imposed for their mailbox, and it's really difficult. You constantly have to delete email, archive email. It's a task that monthly or every couple months takes time and is kind of annoying. So with Office 365, each plan is entitled to a 50 GB inbox, and that's per user, and that's just huge. I mean, most people would never even hit half of that. But the nice part about that is you never really have to delete email. You can continue organizing your email however it makes sense to you, but you don't have to worry about keeping under some kind of limit or quota. You can just go about your business. You can search everything. Everything is readily accessible. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about archiving and deleting. So we're going to go ahead and jump into Outlook and check out some of the cool new features that you can actually use on a daily basis. That'll save you some time and some of the cool tricks that are out there. So let me pull up Outlook here. So when you open up Outlook, it's going to take you to your inbox. Even if you don't use Outlook 2013, this is probably a fairly familiar view. On the left here, we have our account, our inbox, various different folders. In the middle here, we have the actual list of the inbox, and on the right, we have our reading pane, so that we can see a preview of the different emails. So one of the great new features that kind of ties directly into the fact that Microsoft wants to make content, very easily available but not distracting, is a feature that they call the peaks. So it's a calendar peak and a contact peak, and I'm going to show you that right now. So if you roll over calendar, you're going to see that it's going to pop up a small calendar, and we're actually going to be able to see our agenda right here. So this is very important because if you're in the middle of writing an email, or if you're going through your inbox, or you're on the phone with someone who's asking about your availability, you don't need to completely switch your view in Outlook to leave your inbox and go to your calendar. You can just simply roll over, hover your mouse over the calendar icon, or the calendar text down here. It's going to pop up the peak, and you can actually see what your agenda is. And it's not only limited to today. It's actually an interactive calendar that I can click on, and I can see my agenda for any day. And I can just scroll down. It's going to show me all of my meetings for the day I'm on and a few days going into the future. So, like I said, this is really great. I use this, very often when I'm writing an email or I'm, talking on the phone with someone, and I don't want to leave my inbox in order to check my calendar. The same thing is possible for contacts, or people as it's now called. If you scroll over this, you can actually search your entire contact list. So if I search for Alan, who's a user in this fictitious company, I can pull him up, and not only do I have a few buttons of different ways to contact him, I can actually pull up his whole rich contact card right here. I'm still in my inbox, as you can see in the background, but I have everything I need in order to contact him. Now, most of your contacts would probably include phone numbers, which aren't included here. But you get the idea that without ever leaving the inbox, it's very easy to access all of this information. So really for any of these options down here, there's the peek that you can use. So for tasks as well, it's a very easy way to look at your tasks. And keep in mind again that these are fully interactive. I can categorize these tasks right here. I can actually complete tasks, or I can open them up if I need to add some more detail inside of the task itself. So that's a really great feature. Again, you know, I probably don't use the people one as much. Some people who have larger contact lists might, but the calendar one for me is a really big killer feature. I find myself, you know, actually not having to switch over to the full calendar view here, you know, not nearly as often as I used to. So I like being able to stay in the inbox and keep my view here. So back to the inbox. A great feature that it was around in 2010, but you know, some people didn't use it or they might have not understood what it is the conversation view. So the conversation view is a great way to reduce the number of separate emails in your inbox. It reduces the clutter, and it just helps you keep email threads or conversations organized. So right now, we're not looking at conversation view, and what I want to show you is that if you look at a few of these emails here, this one, for example, with the subject line of Contoso's 3rd annual hiking trip, you'll see another one here. And if I scroll down, you're going to see some more of these emails with a similar subject. And these are all part of, you know, a single email conversation. Someone sent out the initial email, and all of these people have replied. So if you're going through your inbox, I mean, you might, it's a little bit difficult because they're not all sent at the same time. People have replied at different times. It's hard to get a grasp on the whole conversation. So if we go up to the View menu up at the top here, and we click Show as Conversations, it's going to ask us if we want to set conversations for the full mailbox, all folders, or just this folder. I'm just going to choose this folder, which is our inbox. And what you're going to see is that now certain emails have this triangle next to them, which is indicating that they've grouped similar emails that are in the same email conversation or email thread together. So now when I click on one, it's going to break out all of the separate emails below here. So now if I scroll down in my inbox, I don't have all these Contoso hiking trip emails all over the place. They're all in one thread, organized in one conversation. And if I click off of it, it collapses again, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. And if I click back on it, I'm able to see all of the emails. And they're all stored in chronological order. And I can scroll down, you know, either on the right-hand side in the email, or I can actually click through the separate emails. You'll notice that if I click this triangle again, it's actually going to break out a few more emails that it didn't show us initially. And some people are confused as to why that is. They wonder if they're, you know, why don't I see all the emails the first time? But really what this is doing is it's using logic behind the scenes to hide emails where the body of that email is fully included in another email above it. So if I click off and come back here, we're only going to see 4 emails, but that's because all of these other emails below down here are fully included in this email above. So Outlook is really going, you know, pretty far to only show you what you need to see. You're not missing any information. You're not losing any information. You're only kind of seeing what's important, and there's not additional clutter there.
A lot of these features that Zach's going over here are really to start targeting the screen real estate. A lot of the users have had some complaints here about, you know, the clutter of Office and how it opens up a lot of windows. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to a very streamlined interface here where you can get access to all of your information with just a few clicks or just by changing the focus of the mouse. Just like they changed the toolbars in Office in 2003 to the ribbons in 2007, and then they really have streamlined those ribbons in 2013 now.
Thanks, James. So the next thing we're going to look at is what's called inline drafts. And it has to do with the conversation view, but we're going to take it a step further by showing you what happens when you create a new email and potentially have to click on another email to go away from that before you send it, which creates a draft. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with drafts. If you look in your own drafts folder, you probably, you know, if you're not diligent about it, you probably have, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 drafts in there of things that you started typing that you walked away from, and then you came back and maybe you couldn't find that draft, so you just started typing up a new email. This is a feature that sort of helps you keep the draft organized so that you're not, you know, doubling up on your work and retyping things that you've already typed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the top level here of this Contoso's third annual hiking trip. I can see the latest email that Amy has sent here, and I want to make a reply to that. So I'm going to go ahead and click reply, and I'm going to start, typing sounds good, looking forward to it. And then let's say that, I wanted to check my calendar, or I needed to do something else, or someone called me before I was able to actually finish writing this email. And so let's say I get a phone call and, it's Julian saying, hey, Karen, I sent you an invitation to see my calendar. Did you get it? And so you're going to want to click off of that email to make sure that you got this message from Julian. And then you hang up the phone with Julian, and you want to go back and you want to finish writing your draft and email on this thread. So normally what you'd have to do is you'd have to go to the drafts folder, and if you have 10 or 15 drafts, you're going to have to search around for a while to find what you're looking for. Now, if you look with the inline drafting conversation view feature, if you look at the email Contoso's third annual hiking trip, you can see that it's now appended with draft in front of it. And if I click on it, I actually get right back into my draft here. It's fully editable. It's exactly where I left off working. And you can see that it's kept in chronological order over here in the list. So even if perhaps you were replying to an email that wasn't the latest email, it would keep your draft in chronological order exactly, above the email that you're replying to. So it's very easy to keep everything organized. So when I come back to my draft, I can continue editing it, say whatever I want to say, and then I can go ahead and send the email off. And once I send it, it's going to take a second, and now you can see that the draft has gone away. And since I've expanded this conversation fully, you can actually even see my reply. I'm acting as Karen Berg here. You can see my reply to the thread. That's a really great function too, because often I'll go through my inbox and I am looking at a conversation thread, and I want to know not only the emails that have been sent to me in that conversation, I want to be able to see the emails that I've replied, that I've sent out. And without having to go to the sent items box, I can actually do all of that right from the conversation thread. So if I click on the conversation thread and I expand it fully again, you're going to see Amy's email and then the email that I responded to her with. So this is a really great way to, see all of the emails in the thread in one place. There's also a conversation cleanup option. This basically will just go through and it'll actually remove emails from your inbox if they are fully contained in another email in that thread. So we kind of touched on that earlier. When you just look at the conversation, if you just click on it once, it's already going to kind of show you the view where those other emails are hidden. But if you actually want to get rid of all of those other emails, the ones that we can see now that I've fully expanded it, you can come up to cleanup here and you can say cleanup conversation, and it's going to tell you all redundant messages in this conversation will be moved to deleted items. So you're not really going to lose anyone's responses. It's just going to take those emails out that really aren't necessary because they're included in another person's email. They're redundant, basically. One other cool feature that we're not really going to talk about Lync today, which is the instant messaging program, but one of the cool features of Lync is that if you send your colleague an instant message and they're not at their desk or they've walked away without actually reading your message and they don't respond within, I think it's 10 minutes, it will send an email to that user with the text of your instant message, and it'll show up in their inbox, and it has a subject similar to missed conversation, so that you're sure that your colleague is not going to miss any information that you tried to ask them or that you sent them. And that kind of ties in with this conversation view, because if you've been having an email thread back and forth with that colleague or coworker about something, and then you've taken the conversation over to an instant messaging format instead of email, all of that will be kept in line in the conversation, just like we're seeing here. So they've really gone to great lengths to make sure that you're staying organized, you're always up to the minute, and you have all your information that you need at your fingertips. So moving along, we kind of saw this when I made the reply, but I didn't really talk about it. It goes back to what James mentioned about how Microsoft is trying to get away from you having, a lot of open windows on your desktop or on your start bar. They're kind of trying to keep everything contained within Outlook. So you'll notice that if I choose any email down here, we'll choose this one from Julian, and I reply to it, you're going to see that by default, the reply is kind of overlapping the reading pane. If you look at the bottom, we don't have a second window open. We still just have one Outlook window open, which is much different than any previous version. Any previous version, when you reply to an email, it actually opens up an entire new window. This Outlook 2013 doesn't stop you from using that functionality, but by default, it's going to open it up in the same window. It might seem counterintuitive at first, but once you use it for a little while, you really start to appreciate it because you no longer have Outlook if you come down to your start bar, with 10 to 20 windows of emails that you have open, and then basically you get to a point where you kind of just have to close everything and start over again, which is not really, it takes a lot of time and it's not really productive. So with the inline reply, it's right here in the same window for you. Now, let's say you want to have it in a separate window because, for whatever reason, there's the pop-out button here, and you can pop it out into its own window. And now it's a totally separate window. It has nothing to do with your inbox. And if we come down to Outlook, now you can see that we've got two separate windows actually open. So you still have the functionality, but again, by default, everything's going to kind of be in line to help you reduce your clutter. And that works the same way with forwarding as well. And I'd also just draw your attention to the reply and forward and IM buttons right here. So if you were working on a tablet and you had the ribbon collapsed, and again, the ribbon is the toolbar and the buttons up here. If you have the ribbon collapsed because you have a smaller screen, you want to use more of your screen for actual emails, inbox and reading pane, you still have these buttons right here that easily allow you to interact with the email, whether it be reply or forward, instead of having to always have the full ribbon showing at the top. So that's another very cool feature. A lot of things also in Office 2013 are geared toward touchscreen interfaces. So if you've got a touchscreen tablet, a Surface Pro from Microsoft, something similar to that, there are other ways that you can make it more user-friendly to actually use your finger to interact, to touch with the application if you don't have a keyboard.
Zach, one of those features that you're talking about is that the ability to enable the touch device where it actually spreads the buttons out so they're not as cramped.
Exactly. So if I come up here and I turn on the touch mode, this is a button that automatically would show up on your tablet if it senses that you have a touch interface. Basically, if you click this, you have two different options. You have mouse optimized and touch optimized. So if you go ahead and kind of just focus on these buttons up here on the toolbar and watch what happens when I switch to touch optimized, it makes everything bigger and it spreads it all out a little bit. So this is going to allow you to just be more productive and not waste as much time trying to hunt and peck very small icons with your finger. It's going to spread everything out and increase the size of those icons for you to make it easier. You can also see that we've got big buttons over here now for reply, forward, etc., just to make it easier for you to use the touch interface. And there's nothing to stop you from using this interface with a mouse, but maybe if you need bigger buttons, your eyesight's not as good, whatever the reason, there's nothing about it that forces you to only use it if you have a touch screen. You can use it with a mouse as well. One other cool feature of Office 2013, and this actually spreads across all of the different programs, Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, but we'll look at it in the context of Outlook here, are basically what they call productivity apps. And these are little tiny applications that actually kind of run inside your email that give you some added functionality. So you'll see the apps come up in this gray toolbar at the top of your email, and certain apps only come up based on the content of the email. So it's not going to show you all your apps if they don't make sense for that particular email. So one of these productivity apps is Action Items, and if you click it, it's actually going to go through your email and find potential action items that you may need to flag as a task to follow up on later. So you can see here, Outlook's telling you, we think we found an action item, and it tells you what that item is, which is actually pulled from the email and then it's going to allow you to flag that email for follow-up so that you can come back and complete that task or complete that action item. There's some other really helpful ones like Bing Maps. So if it senses that there's an address somewhere in the email, you can click Bing Maps, and it's actually going to show you the address on a map, and you'll be able to get directions to that address right from here. So instead of having to copy and paste the address from the email, open up a web browser, go to Google Maps or Bing Maps, load the address in and get your directions, you can do it all straight from the email. So that's a really cool feature. There are not a lot of productivity apps right now, but it's one of the quickest growing areas of development for the Office suite of software. Some of the other cool ones, there's a LinkedIn app where you can actually see people's LinkedIn cards and profiles straight from your email. So it's going to take anyone who the email has been sent to or who's replied to the email, and you'll be able to see their information. So maybe you're getting an email from someone who you don't know, or you know their name but you're not familiar with them. You can click that LinkedIn app and you can actually get some information about their job position, their company, without ever leaving Outlook and without ever leaving your email. There's one for package tracking, so if you deal a lot with UPS or FedEx, there are ones that can speed up the process of being able to track those packages straight from your email. As an IT person, the one I like the most is called a mail header analyzer, and I can click a button very quickly, and it's going to show me exactly where the email came from, how long it took to get to me, all the servers that kind of jumped across. It's a very cool feature. And again, you know, this is just a small subset of them. There's a whole store. You can click Get More Apps. Most of them are free. However, there are some more powerful ones, like for SharePoint, that do have a small cost. But as you can see here, you know, there are quite a few, and it's growing, you know, really on a daily basis. So the next thing we want to talk about revolves around sharing and collaboration. In the intro, we talked a lot about that. It's a very important piece of Office 365, and really can unlock, you know, a lot of productivity, make it easier for people to work. They don't have to go back and forth as much, etc. So one of those things is calendar sharing. Calendar sharing used to be kind of a difficult thing to do. Sometimes you had to bring IT people in to help you do it. They've made it very easy now with Office 365 and Outlook 2013. So I want to show you two things. I want to show you how you would share your calendar with a colleague and how you would accept a sharing invitation from a colleague who wants to share their calendar with you. So first we'll go ahead and look at how you would share your calendar with someone else. And basically all you need to do is you just need to click Calendar at the bottom of Outlook to switch to your calendar view. And then on the left-hand side, it's going to show you a list of your calendars. In this case, I only have one. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on that calendar and go down to the Share menu, and I'm going to have an option right here for Share Calendar. Now, it's not going to bring up some esoteric permissions box or something like that. All it does is it brings up an email that's all pre-formatted for me. I just have to say who I want to send it to. I'm going to send it to my colleague, Julian. It already pre-populates the subject, which you can change if you wish. You can type some text in the body of the email if you want to. And then basically all you have to decide is what level of detail do you want your colleague to be able to see on your calendar. Do you want them to only see availability so that they can schedule meetings with you, or they can only see whether you're free or busy? Do you want to show them some limited details as far as maybe just what the subject of your appointment is, but not the actual details? Or do you want them to be able to see everything on your calendar the way you can see it, which includes free and busy information, subject of appointments, and even the details of those appointments as well. Like, for example, if you keep notes in the body of your email, of the body of your calendar appointments. So basically, again, you just select who you want to share with, you select the level of permissions and detail that you'd like them to see, and you just click Send. And it's going to ask you, are you sure? You click Yes. And it's going to go ahead and send off an invitation to the other user to see your calendar. So now we're going to look at that piece of it. So in the background, I've already had Julian share his calendar with me. So he just went through the same process of what we just did to share his calendar with me. And this is what it looks like when you get the request. It's a simple email that shows up in your inbox. Julian edited the subject a little bit to say, Karen, I'd like to share my calendar with you. And really, it's going to give you the instructions right here. It says Julian shared his calendar. Click the Open button above. All I have to do is click Open this calendar, the button right at the top of the email here. It's going to take a few seconds to process. And now you can see here on the calendar view, their shared calendars, and now I have an entry for Julian. If I click the checkbox next to Julian, I'm able to see his calendar. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see that it's updating his calendar, and voila, we can see all his appointments. And now I know exactly what he's up to. It's easy for me to schedule meetings. This is also great for managers that want to keep tabs on the employees below them, etc. So one of the other cool things you can do that you have been able to do for the last couple versions is a calendar overlay. Right now we're looking at them side by side. If I click this little arrow up here, it's actually going to overlay our calendars so I can see everything in one single unified interface. So it's a really great feature, especially if you're trying to schedule things. You can actually see, if you look at some of these appointments, that Karen and Julian work very closely together. They have a lot of the same sales meetings actually scheduled on their calendar. So it's very easy to share your calendar. Anyone can do it. You can not only share it, but you can control the level of detail as well. So the same process works for sharing contacts, contact lists, tasks, and even your inbox. So if you need to share your whole inbox or certain subfolders of your inbox with other people on your team, it's really easy to do that, and it all works in the same kind of interface where you just need to go to the calendar, right-click on it, choose share your calendar, and send it off to whoever you want to share with. It's also very easy to go back. If you click on calendar permissions, you're going to be able to see who can see your calendar and what permissions they have. So, you don't really need to know about all this stuff in the bottom of the window. All you would really need to know about is looking up at the top and saying, oh, Julian can see my calendar. Maybe in a month you decide he no longer should be able to see my calendar. All you do is you click remove and OK, and we can still see Julian's calendar because he hasn't revoked our access, but Julian would no longer be able to see our calendar. So it's really all very easy to do. So I quickly want to jump into the web apps and just to show you guys those quickly, and then we can open it up to some questions. So like I mentioned before, the web apps are versions of Outlook, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that you can access just with a web browser. You don't need to install any software on your local machine, and they provide a lot of the same functionality. So the first one we're going to look at is the Outlook web app. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser, and I'm going to log into the Office 365 website here as the user who I'm acting as, Karen Berg. And you're going to see up here we have a navigation pane. I'm going to go ahead and click on Outlook. And again, keep in mind this is Internet Explorer. This is just a basic web browser. And if I open up the Outlook web app, you're going to be able to see that this looks pretty similar to Outlook. We've got our account on the left. We've got our inbox in the middle. We've got our reading pane on the right. We've got our reply buttons up here. You can pretty much do everything that you can do in Outlook in the Outlook web app. You can search. You can view unread emails here. You really have all of the same functionality. Some of it is in a little bit different place, but it's all there. So, we could even go into options and set our out-of-office reply. We can share calendars the exact same way that we could in Outlook. We can update junk email settings. We can categorize emails. We really have the full functionality. There's a lot of people in our office who actually use the web app more than they actually use Outlook itself. They just find it works faster, it's more streamlined. Outlook takes up a lot of resources on your computer, so some people just really prefer this view. The other great thing is that if you were to pull up the Outlook web app on your iPad or on your Android tablet, it would look exactly the same as it looks on your screen right now. There's no mobile interface. There's no watered down light version. It's all the same interface and version that you would get when you're using Internet Explorer on your computer. So Microsoft's really gone to a great length to make sure that everything is standardized and looks the same across all your devices. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the other web apps. I'm going to go and click on SkyDrive up here, which we'll talk about, I believe, in our next series. And basically, SkyDrive is just where you can store your files online. It's a private area of Office 365 for each user where they can store their files, their work files. These would be things that you would normally either save on your desktop or in your My Documents folder on your computer. You can see here I have a couple different files. I have a PowerPoint file, I have a Word file, I have an Excel file. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this project budget. It's an Excel file, and you're going to see that real quick it flashed by. It said Excel Online. You can actually see that up here. So now we're looking at our spreadsheet, our Excel spreadsheet, online in the browser. I don't need Excel installed. I don't have to open up Excel. It's all right here in my web browser. So not only can I see, view the data, I can actually click Edit Workbook up here, and I can say Edit in Excel Web App. And it says make quick changes right here in your browser. So if I go ahead and click that, it's going to open it up in editing mode. And this is what I was talking about. You have the ribbon. You have most of the same features. You have nearly all the same functionality, and it all looks the same. You can collapse the ribbon. You can expand the ribbon. You've got all the same functionality. And this is a pretty in-depth spreadsheet as far as the formatting goes. And everything that's come across, looks the same. I can even come in here and change values. You can see that all the formulas are still working. It's just like I'm in Excel on my computer. I have all my tabs. Everything's color-coded. I even have, kind of rich graphs here to see, projections of my data. It's all there. So this is great. I mean, this really, releases the tie of having to have IT people install software for you, keep that software up to date, patch that software, make sure everyone's on the same version, etc. It kind of alleviates you of all of that. And also, if you're on a home computer, or again, if you're out on the road and you need to make changes to a document, or you're on a colleague's computer that maybe you're not familiar with, you don't need to worry about searching around for what you need. You can just go straight to the website, log into Office 365, open up your data right in the web browser. And you have a similar thing up here, File and Exit. And one of the other nice things about the web apps is there's no saving of documents. When you make your changes, they're saved in real time. You can always undo them. You can go back to previous versions, but you don't have to worry about clicking Save. So that's another great feature. You're not worrying about your computer crashing and losing data. If by chance your computer crashes, God forbid, you just come back in, you log into Office 365, and all of your changes are right there. So this goes for all of the web apps, for Word, Office, Excel, and PowerPoint. We'll go ahead and just quickly open up a PowerPoint presentation so you can see what it looks like. Again, we can flip through all the slides, see what they look like, and we can even edit the PowerPoint stacks right in the browser here. So again, I can do everything I can do with the locally installed version. I can go between the slides. I can, update the data. I can make things bold. I can change colors. You have all your functionality right there. So it's very cool. A lot of people are sort of skittish about them at first because they don't fully understand it, but the more you use it, the more you become comfortable with it, you really start to see that it is a killer feature of Office 365. And again, these web apps are available on all mobile devices, any computer, any browser. It doesn't matter if you like Firefox, if you like Chrome, if you like Internet Explorer, you can use them all. They'll all work. You'll all get the same interface for everything.
So at that point, we're going to we'll give you the preview for the next event in the series here, and then we're going to open it up for questions and answers. As Zach showed and demonstrated here, there's a lot of functionality here that's been building the Office suite over the past couple of versions. They're really bringing that functionality into the web interface, trying to make that seamless environment for the users across all of the devices, whether it be on the web, inside the full application, or on the mobile devices. The next one in the series that we're going to cover, which really kind of dovetails into this, is SharePoint and the OneDrive, which is formerly SkyDrive there. The big reason that we do that is because most people are very comfortable with Office, with Outlook, with the full rich app on their desktop. So we get you into the web apps here, and now we're going to start talking about the SharePoint functionality and the OneDrive, how you can save those files in different locations, how they're available, the sharing of them, and all of those other features. At this point, let's go ahead and open it up to questions. If somebody does have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand. We'll unmute you, and we'll get that answered.
Yeah, and to raise your hand, you have a small button at the bottom of your GoToWebinar toolbar. I actually don't have it up right now, but if you hover your mouse over it, it'll say raise hand. And so anyone who wants more information, has questions about anything specific, even if it's something we didn't cover, we're happy to answer your question and get you some more information. So make sure you raise your hand because everyone is muted, so we can't hear you. You can also type your question into the question pane. We'll see it there.
Hey, Jim actually answered a great question. When is the SharePoint webinar? It is. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but it is up on the FMT website, Jim. And what I will do is I will make sure that we get that sent out to you.
And again, with SharePoint webinar, we're going to talk about team sites that allow you to collaborate with internal teams, whether it's a sales team, IT team, marketing team, development team. You can have separate team sites for all of those. You really can create unlimited team sites with your Office 365 plan. And within those team sites, there's a lot you can do. You can have shared document libraries so that you can collaborate on documents for projects that your team is working on. You can have shared team calendars where you can have common dates, project goals, and deadlines. You can have task lists where you can assign tasks to people on the team. You can track progress of those tasks. You can even get into advanced workflow functionality where you have documents that need to be approved by certain individuals. So really you could have a user create a document, it automatically gets sent to the approver approves it, and that triggers further workflows on that document, so it's all automated and saving you a lot of time. So Jim, I saw you had another question. Does FMT help customers set up those team sites? Yes, we do. We have a full SharePoint team on staff who will do all of the out-of-box setup as well as any custom development that you want. So they would come in, take a look at your business processes, talk to key individuals, and then build a team site and even workflows that match those business processes.
Jim, also just to tag onto that, we also have the Solutions and Support Services group. If you do have any other questions that come up, you can feel free to reach out, and if we can't give you the answer there, we'll pass you off to the group that can.
And another great piece of SharePoint that we've talked about is the OneDrive. It used to be called SkyDrive. Microsoft likes to change the names of things quite often and make it very confusing for everyone, which is a little bit unfortunate. But needless to say, SkyDrive or OneDrive, however you know it, is a piece of SharePoint, and we did take a look at that very briefly today. That is the area of SharePoint where each individual user gets storage space to store their documents. And really, IT people love this. End users love this. IT people like it because they're getting all of the data off of the user's local PC where it's vulnerable, not being backed up, and moving up to the cloud into the data center where it's getting backed up, it's protected, it's secure, and it's much more easy to share those files, and it's easier for IT people to have visibility into how much storage people are using, etc. And for the end user, it's great because their data is available anywhere. It syncs back down to your local computer if you want it to. It's available from any web browser. It's available on your phone. And really, within 3 clicks, you can share these private files with any colleague, whether or not they're inside of or external to your organization. And you have a lot of those same permissions rights. You can just allow them to view the document. You can allow them to edit the document. It's very easy to revoke access. So again, it actually also reduces clutter because instead of sending someone a file or an attachment, you're sending them a link to a file that they can open and update. And there's just one file that gets updated. It's not like they're updating the file, sending you the new attachment, you're updating the file, sending them another attachment. It just keeps everything much more clean. You can go back and see all the different versions of the document. It just saves you from getting confused about, which version of the document am I working on. There's just kind of one point of truth.
Looks like there aren't a lot of other questions right now. We'll go ahead and hang out here for another couple of minutes, just make sure that we get all the anybody's additional questions answered. But as we mentioned, if you do have any questions after the webinar is expired, go ahead and feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to either Sean or us directly in the Solutions and Support Services group. Zach and myself are part of that team, and we will do our best to answer it.
Yeah, so we just want to thank everyone for joining us on the first part of a 4-part series, exploring a little bit more about Microsoft Office 365 and its features and capabilities. Next steps will be I'll send each one of you an email to follow up to say thank you for joining our webinar with a link to a free 30-day trial of Microsoft Office 365. From that, we can certainly set up a Office 365 technical advisory call to kind of go over the solution a little bit more in depth, talk about possible migration services and what it would take in order to set you guys up. So once again, we certainly appreciate your time this morning, and we look forward to touching base with each one of you and following up to see how we can be of service. So once again, thank you very much.
And we'll just go ahead and hang out for a few more minutes in case anyone has questions. But again, we'll send you the follow-up information, and we hope you have a really great day.
Thanks, everybody, for attending.